What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of The Lawyer You Know. And today we got to hear Brendan's version of events. What happened that morning? From Brendan's point of view, he explains everything. He has an answer for everything. Does he have the corroborating evidence? He gets cross-examined. It's not the longest cross in the world, but was it effective enough to get the job done? And then we got to hear the rebuttal case from the Commonwealth, which had one witness, in my opinion, that may have been as important as any witness in this entire trial. So we're going to focus a lot on Brendan's testimony, but we're going to cover everything else as well because the defense rested and we heard the entirety of the rebuttal evidence today. We are done. No more evidence in this case, only closing arguments tomorrow and maybe a verdict. Do we think we'll get a verdict as early as tomorrow? What do you guys think? Let's get into it. All right, so we've got Brendan Banfield, the defendant, on the stand most of the day and most of this video. One of the weird things is, like, to start his testimony today, his defense lawyer wanted to talk about the business relationship between him and Juliana, the au pair, and who handled that and how that worked. I was like, didn't we leave from McDonald's? Why don't we start back from McDonald's? Eventually they get back there and we get to hear what happens from McDonald's and throughout the rest of the morning, which is the most important part of his testimony, right? Did you commit a crime? What were you thinking? What were you doing? What was everybody else doing? What was Christine doing? Juliana, Valerie? How did everybody end up in this situation? Explain to us how this timeline makes sense. Seems to be missing a lot of logic, but he gets his chance to explain. Susan, thank you for starting this video off with 5 Lawyer You Know memberships gifted out there. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's take a listen.
That was a question from previously, and she had indicated yes.
Okay. And was there a specific, at that point, did you know how the person got into the house?
I knew that they got into the house through the front door, but I didn't know more than that. It sounded to me at that point that they just went into the house without delay, I guess.
Okay. In terms of what you were told by others.
Sounded like they went into the house without delay. This is him trying to get hearsay in without getting hearsay in. Like, Juliana called me, told me somebody was running in the front door, but he can't say that. So they do a lot of getting around those types of things. Bird Mad Girl, thank you for gifting 5 Lawyer You Know memberships as well. There's a ton of memberships being gifted right off the bat. So make sure you guys are commenting in the chat, being active, getting your best chance for YouTube to randomly assign you a membership.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what did you do at that point?
I told Juliana to stay at the car.
Okay. And what about regard to Valerie?
I didn't address Valerie specifically, but they were
wild, right? I told Juliana to stay in the car. I did not address Valerie specifically. That's wild to me. Everything about Valerie in this case doesn't make sense. Not what I would do, right? Doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. Not what I would do.
They were in the car, and I had just told Juliana specifically to stay at the car.
In doing that, was it your intent that she would stay with Valerie?
Yes.
Okay. At that point, after you told her that, what did you do?
I walked partially down my driveway. My driveway is kind of a little bit long because it splits between me and my neighbor's driveway. And this was so that I could see a little bit better of what was going on. And this is when I saw a silver Jeep in the driveway, and that my front door was closed.
Now, so at this point, knowing what you know at the point that you saw the silver Jeep, how did that make you feel, and what were you concerned about at that point?
And so my immediate thought, and I don't want to step on Cross too much, but my immediate thought when he's describing this is, all right, let's assume Joe is also a dumb criminal, okay? Because that's what he's trying to tell us. So if I'm trying to get in Brendan's headspace that Joe is a dumb criminal, he's really going to park his gray Jeep right in Christine's driveway, go in, hatchet up a storm, and then just drive right out of her driveway in his gray Jeep? That was the plan? There's no logic to that. And to me, I would have I'm going to point them out during his direct. We're going to watch some of them during Cross, but I'll start to talk about Cross now. Cross, I thought she made some good points. There was so much more meat on the bone, in my opinion. And I'll point some of it out as the story goes, to where I would have asked kind of like some sarcastic questions, which she did some of it. And I liked, like, that makes no sense. There's no way that's actually how it happened. I would have asked some questions like that. Jen, thank you for gifting 10 Lawyer You Know memberships. They're coming down like hotcakes here.
I guess it made me very anxious. I didn't know what was going on. I had concerns that this was going to be an affair, but I didn't really know what was going on at that point.
Okay.
So he assumed it was going to be an affair. Okay. That's kind of his story. Christine had affairs in the past. This was probably just another affair, but I'm still going to run in and check. Okay.
Did you think to call 911 at that point?
I didn't think that it wasn't on my mind at this point that this was some type of violent or threatening encounter.
Okay. So what, if anything, did you do at that point?
I didn't continue going down the driveway. I basically made a right, which would be over the grass of my property, and headed towards my back fence.
Okay. Now, but you were closer to the front door, is that correct?
Yes, I was closer to the front door at that point.
Okay. Why didn't you go through the front door?
My front door has a electronic door lock. You would enter a code in order to gain access to the door, and every button that you push makes a beeping noise, and then
So he wanted to sneak in, basically. That's why he used the back door. Gabriella, I see your question is about cross. I'm going to save it and ask it then. Chris said, Peter, will you put a poll on guilty, not guilty, please? Remind me after we finish his testimony to do that, John. Let's do a poll for that as well. Mego Waffles, Lego my Mego. Thank you for gifting 10 Lawyer You Know memberships.
deadbolt makes a mechanical noise as it unlocks. It makes quite a bit of noise, and I didn't want all of that noise.
And what was your concern if there was going to be noise in the front area of your house?
I didn't know what was going on. If there was an affair going on, I didn't want to alert it at that point. I also thought about just getting the.
I didn't want to alert it at that point. Like, he's saying words, but do they actually make sense? If there was an affair, I didn't want to alert it at that point. I don't know what that means.
The lunches for for Valerie and Juliana that they were missing and leaving. That was also a thought.
Okay. Now, you're talking about the lunches. Why do you say that?
Juliana had informed me that she did not bring the lunches that she was going to take to the zoo for her and Valerie.
Okay. And
She informed him that she forgot the lunches at the house. Thank you, Heidi, for gifting a membership. Dana said, was shocked BB didn't channel Amber H with the crocodile tears, but he lied to cover his lies and didn't shed a tear. Crazy. How are there no SA charges? Because he arranged that to happen to Christine and deceive Joe. I mean, I think it's all the same set of circumstances if you can prove it, right? That's what it comes down to. And if you can prove it, you go for the top dog, which we'll talk a little bit about what the heck was going on at the end of the day with those charges. And there'll be more discussion about that tomorrow, I'm sure. But yeah, Dana was betting on Amber Heard. I did not feel the Amber Heard vibes. And I'll tell you my thought, which may surprise and maybe annoy some of you at the end of his testimony. When you compare him and Juliana, what are the possibilities for a jury? What are the possibilities? And I'm going to take this moment to, oh no, Nanny B said, I think Peter will be hosting the longest episode of the day. I'll tell you right now, it ain't going to be an hour. So hit that like button because we're going overtime tonight. Here it is. Tara said, Peter, over under hours of deliberation, set it at 3-2. I'll take the over. I'll take the over on deliberation. And we'll talk about why as we continue. Thank you, Cody, for gifting a Lawyer You Know membership.
Moving forward, did you ultimately find those lunches in the refrigerator?
Yes, they were in I believe the upper left of the refrigerator.
Okay. So if you can, for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, give them an idea of from the front door, and I think it shows in some of the body worn camera, but if you could explain it, the front door and the noise from the front door was a concern to you. Why, based on the layout of the house?
So the front door kind of.
So he's going to explain. I'm going to skip through some of this because we don't need to hear him like exactly explain, how the house is laid out. We kind of already saw that. But these are the kind of things. Lulu reminds me, right, of when jurors are with you, they're willing to forgive some bad facts. when they're against you, honestly, truthfully, I've had some jurors tell me about a case where we have won and they hated the other side, and they literally say things like this. He described his driveway like it was an entry to a mansion with a long drive-in, a garden. It's a regular driveway. They may have added a bro at the end of it, but it's true. This is how people start to think once they start to get against a person. Lisa said, wanted to let you know that my husband was approved for a liver transplant today. He's at the top of the list. Thank you to everyone for their prayers. Thousands of people praying can make a difference. And there's no guarantees, right? Just because we pray doesn't mean what we want to happen is going to happen, but we keep praying. We keep praying. Thank you for updating me, Lisa, and I will continue to pray. Sandra, thank you for gifting 5 Lawyer You Know memberships. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit through some of the house.
We reclosed the gate and then headed around back to my back basement door.
Okay, and did you access the house?
Yes, I unlocked the door.
Did you access the house? Like, those are the questions. If I'm ever talking through my direct with a client or with a witness, those are the questions I want to get rid of. Did you access the house? It's like, how'd you end up in the house? Explain to us how you got in the house. That's it. Did you access the house? And again, that happens. This guy is working by himself, basically doing every witness on weeks-long trials. So I get it. It's very difficult. No shade for that. David, I noticed that too. How many times did he talk about how he was tall? Like, I'm tall, so I could see when I walked up the stairs. She likes a bunch of tall guys. You know, I'm taller. She was describing me. I thought that was weird too.
And while I was unlocking the door, my dog was in the basement, which is unusual as...
That to me, dog in the basement, what I was picking up and what I think he was putting down, but I could be wrong. You guys tell me what you think, is that Christine was planning to have an affair. She was planning to have this fake break-in and abuse story or whatever. And that's why she put the dog with the food in the basement. That sounded like a clue. But that's what I think he was trying to explain with this. You guys tell me if you picked something else up.
The basement has a door that's pretty much always closed. So my dog Lily doesn't have access to the basement normally. And she was jumping up and down at the back door when I was going down there.
Now, let's just talk about the locked door from the back where you came in. How did you access that?
With my key.
Okay. And
Sometimes the back door by the deck.
what, if anything, did you notice about Lily's behavior when you went into the basement?
The dog was freaking out. No surprise there. We're going to jump ahead a little bit.
Particularly muddy out, or...
Yes, to that part of the house?
Yes, Lily would have access to my bedroom generally at all points. She would generally sleep in my room.
Okay.
Way too many details about Lily, in my opinion. I would get to the important stuff with what the jury really wants to hear. Now, saying that Lily was in the basement, I think is important if you're saying like, yeah, Christine was definitely planning something. She locked her phone away. She put Lily in the basement, wanted her out of the way so she could do her thing with her boyfriend, right? Like, I get why he's explaining some of the details, but not quite this much.
Valerie's room and all the other rooms?
She didn't normally have access to Juliana's room because Juliana kept her door closed all the time. She did have access to Valerie's room, but she didn't tend to go into Valerie's room unless someone else was also in Valerie's room.
Okay. Now, so you're in the basement, and what happened next?
As I was opening the basement door, I kind of, I guess, shooed Lily inside. She was kind of in the way of me going inside. But I saw that Juliana and Valerie were coming down the brick path, maybe 20, 30 feet away, after I had opened the door. And Juliana was carrying Valerie and had followed me.
And after your last discussion with Juliana, had you communicated with her in any way to come down to the house?
I never told her to come down to the house.
Okay.
At least he's giving the right answers, right? Because everybody in the world is like, why would you tell Juliana and Valerie to come in the house? That makes no sense. So at least he's giving the answer that is the quote unquote right answer. I didn't tell them. They just came up on their own because there was no plan. And I would never tell my 4-year-old daughter to come to the house when I didn't know what was going on inside, right? At least he gives the quote unquote right answer. Ilona said, ew, he is such a puke. Puke as a cut to somebody else, calling them a name. One of my sister's boyfriends, like in high school, said that about somebody, and I fell out of the chair laughing, and I've stolen it and used it ever since. So good on you, Ilona. I love that one. Did BB not think, though, why would JR stab CB? Like, did he not think about it before he told this fake story that you think is a lie, which I get why you think that? Or did he not think about it when he goes in the room? I mean, when he goes in the room, I think he was trying to de-escalate. If you think about it, if this is the true version of events, he froze, he freaked out, he's never shot anybody before, which we're going to get to that. So I do think there is some explanation that makes sense there. But there are issues with the story, major issues. Esoterodactyl, thank you for gifting a membership.
So your previous statement of stay in the car was still standing, I guess?
I believe that it was. I didn't.
Previous statement of stay in the car was still standing? Like, those were your standing orders? I didn't even understand that. Thanks, Sadie Jones, for gifting a membership.
After I told, that was how I ended my conversation with her, was for her to stay in the car.
Okay. So when they got to the basement, what, if anything, did you do?
I allowed them access to the basement. I had the door. I guess partially open for them. And then as they came in, I closed the door behind them.
Okay. And what did you indicate to Juliana and Valerie anything relating to where they should stay?
We had a conversation in the basement again. I had searched the basement a little bit, and there's mainly one large room in the basement. There's also a bedroom, but in the large room where the couches are and the TV is, and there was workout equipment in there at that point. I looked around that room for a little bit and didn't see anybody. Very short time. But
why were you looking around the basement?
Well, I thought that there was somebody in the house, but I didn't know where that person was.
Okay. And so in terms of your search of the basement, did you do it like a law enforcement officer?
Bedroom.
I'm going to jump
in terms of a search. So that's in the basement.
Valerie.
So,
and frankly, what instructions did you have for Juliana and Valerie?
So I instructed Juliana. Well, actually, Valerie looked nervous. She was kind of wide-eyed looking at me, and I knelt down to her, and I told her to stay there with Juliana, and she said, "Okay, Daddy."
And so at that point, when you were in the basement, was there anything that caused your concern level to change from when you previously testified that you were outside?
It bothered me that the dog was in the basement, as she's not normally there. But I guess I was glad that she was in the basement at that point with Juliana and Valerie. Valerie loves Lily a lot and spends quite a lot of time with her. But it was also weird that, going back to Lily, it was also weird that Lily's food bowl was in the basement and it was spilled all over the floor. I think that.
I don't understand the significance of that. Justin said, finally caught alive. Hi from San Diego. As an EA tax preparer, the timing of this trial is wild. Guilty is where I'm at this point. Thanks for covering. I love to hear where you guys are at and why. Nikki said, given how unlikable he is and the weight of the evidence, it's surprising he chose a jury trial. Would a bench trial have been smarter? His story is so bad. Absolutely not. He has a much, much worse chance at a bench trial. Much, much worse. You always do this type of case in front of a jury. Heather, I can't get behind this guy. It's his tone, his expressions, his flippant demeanor. If I were a jury member, I don't know how I could be convinced this guy isn't guilty. Anything else? It's like, dang, anything else? But this is not uncommon for jurors to really start to feel like this. I watched a bit of this and stopped because I thought he was about to describe a piece of lint he saw on his sock. I need the lawyer you know crew to get through it. It was like, well, not this door in my house, but that door, that was a big deal. We didn't use that one. I granted them access to my lair. Like that's what it seemed like he was saying. It was very strange verbiage. Alley Cat, as a person in the BDSM community, I am so sad that Joe Ryan broke every rule of how this scenario can be done safely. They took advantage of his naivety. I really hope someone in the community is on the jury to give insight. BF and I say guilty 100%. Listen, I don't know a ton about the BDSM community, but I do know, at some point, defying logic is difficult. And if you are going to defy logic, there's got to be reasons for it and other things that corroborate what you're saying. And when we finally get to the part where they're in the bedroom and he starts describing the events, we're going to start to think about what's logical and what's not. Thank you, Suzanne, for the super sticker.
Also shows that Lily was in a bit of a frantic state.
And
But
so where would Lily normally eat her food?
her dog bowl is always in the living room. Her dog bowl is always in the dining room.
Like, that's weird. That's a weird mistake to make. Her dog, where does she usually eat? Her dog bowl is usually in the living room. I mean, the dining room. It's like, that's just a weird one to me, right? There were so many of these with this guy for me. Not Charlie Adelson. This guy is definitely not Charlie Adelson. Charlie Adelson was much smoother to me, and had an answer and an explanation for everything, and studied all the documents and knew what to say and knew the case, in my opinion, better than anybody else. This guy does not strike me the same.
There's mats, placemats for the dog on the floor, and that's where water and food bowl are.
So the basement level is the lower level, correct?
Yes.
Where would that level that you're saying where Lily normally
The basement level is the lower level. Like, that's the type of stuff you got to figure out a different way to get there.
eats food?
That would be on the main level of the house, where the living room, kitchen, dining room is.
Okay, and as you walk up the stairs.
I don't know. They keep showing certain people in the courtroom. I don't know who they are. I don't know whose parents are in there or are not. It's got to be brutal for Joe's parents. It's like he has no connection to any of these people. Just so brutal, unless, of course, he is the guilty party, which is what Brendan Banfield wants you to think, but really brutal.
Basement, can you give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury some indication as to what direction you would go to find that?
So if you go up the basement stairs, there's a door that would need to be opened to, I guess, a very, very short hallway, only a couple feet. To the right would lead to the living room. To the left, food bowl would be.
At some point,
All of that was just to explain where Lily's food bowl would usually be. He describes everything as my bedroom, my house, my driveway, my neighbor, just about every time, was nothing shared with his wife. So yeah, so our this, our that. Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that. Lady Saga, he kept calling him Joe like he was a friend, not the guy or the intruder. I feel like he was careful to say, like, I didn't know him before this day, or that guy, or et cetera, et cetera. Like, to me, I feel like he was a little bit more careful than it sounds like you thought he was. At the beginning, I felt like this was Casey Anthony. No, he did it, but just not there. After the defense, it's guilty. Thanks for covering, PETA. Honestly, I think that when you testify the way he did, I know that most people hated him. I don't know that the jury's automatically, every single one of them, going to hate him. I think there are absolutely, I would put my money on the table if I was a betting man, which I am sometimes. And I would bet that there are plenty of jurors that despise this guy and feel the way you guys do. But I think that that might not be every juror. I think there are probably going to be some jurors that are opening to trying to look at the other evidence and say, like, does this story actually make sense? Because there are parts of it that make sense. Thank you, Phyllis. Peter, the facts about the phone and the dog also fit the catfish plan too, right? I thought they were trying to prove that it wasn't Christine moaning in the background, but was just the dog barking. I don't know. This guy is Sarah Boone vibes. I think a better version of Sarah Boone, like a smarter, like more educated and experienced in the law and investigations than Sarah Boone. But I think it's closer to Sarah Boone than Charlie Adelson.
Did you leave the basement?
Yes, after I spoke to Juliana and Valerie, I stepped over the dog gate and climbed the stairs.
Okay, so the dog gate was still in place?
Yes.
Did Lily attempt to follow?
And he was able to step over the dog gate because he's very tall.
No.
Okay, so
She can't jump over the gate.
So explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to go up to the next level, was it?
Finding out what was going on in my house.
Okay. When you got to that level, who was there?
When I went up the stairs, I closed the basement door behind me. I did not immediately see anybody on the main floor of my house. And I walked down that very short hallway past the half bathroom so that I could see into the living room and the kitchen area, of which I did not see anybody.
Okay, and was that a full search or just in the moment?
I guess I walked past the kitchen table, and I walked past the countertop, and also looked and also.
I walked past the countertop. Has anybody ever said that in their life? All of us probably have a countertop in our house, right? Or apartment or whatever. Have you ever said I walked past the countertop? Like I walked past the island, I walked past the kitchen, I walked past the bar, I walked past the, I don't know, cabinets. But like I walked by the countertops. Like it's just very weird. I walked by the or the dining room table and then the countertops.
So looked in the dining room. So I would say that I looked on the main floor of the house.
So you didn't see anyone on the main floor of the house?
No.
Did you hear anyone?
While I was looking on the main floor of the house, I heard sounds from upstairs.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do at that point?
I moved closer to the upstairs. I moved closer to the upstairs stairs, to the stairs heading upstairs, but still on the main floor of the house.
Okay. And was that a better position to hear or know what's going on?
That's where the sound seemed to be coming from. There's regular ceiling over the kitchen and living room area.
And here is when we start to get to the stuff that doesn't make sense. He hears sounds coming from the bedroom. There's not triple pane windows within the house. Ashley, I put it up here. The chat probably agrees with you. There's not triple pane windows in the house. So only a couple things could be happening right now. Either they're having relations, right? Because they're having an affair. Or Joe is forcing himself on Christine. Or 3, he is using the knife and ending her life. None of those things would be like hard to hear, right? I guess you could say moaning and groaning could sound similar, but none of those would be hard to hear where you'd like have to tiptoe around it. Number 1. Number 2, when you slowly kind of creep in, a lot of time is going by while these noises are happening. So when does the stabbing actually start? That was a hard one for me in his story and his explanation. That just didn't make sense. And the prosecutor did touch on it, but I don't think she drove a truck through it enough like she could have.
But in the foyer area, that leads to upstairs, which is where I heard the sounds coming from.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the sounds of, I would say, moaning, as well as sound of skin on skin contact.
What does that sound like? Is that what he's saying? Skin on skin contact? And what are we supposed to think that is? Because no relations actually happened. So what is the skin on skin contact that he's hearing? And how would you ever describe a sound like that? These are the keys to me, to his testimony. Because I do think if you just sit back and listen, somebody might be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I could see how that's a possibility. Because it's a possibility, maybe that's a reasonable doubt. When I listened to it, those details really stuck out to me. Really stuck out. Jen, love that hoodie, Peter. Hello and happy almost Friday. Lawyer, and chat, stoked to catch another live. Looking forward to this breakdown. I felt the Commonwealth could have done so much better. I get it. I get why you feel that way because it definitely left you wanting more, but hold, because I don't think it was horrible. I really don't think it was horrible. Gabriella, why would Ryan end Christine's life in the first place, especially in front of her armed husband? Later on, BB admitted that his love affair with Juliana finally blossomed after his wife died. His testimony backfired so many times. Yeah, you're jumping ahead a little bit. So I like to try to pull the comments up when they're relevant, but I didn't read this before I brought it up. So we're going to get to each and every one of these points. Absolutely. Absolutely. So funny. He looked like a turtle when his acting supervisor was on the stand. Okay. That's another thing that's going to come up in the future. All right. I'll look ahead at some of these comments and we'll pull them up when we need them. Did I miss Nico LaHood on your podcast? No, that's still to come and probably on more than one. Got a couple ideas for that. All right. So he's hearing skin on skin contact somehow.
What did you think was going on at that point?
Sex.
Okay. Why didn't you call 911 at that point?
Well, I believe that it was an affair that was going on at that point. That doesn't seem like an emergency for the police to be involved in, was my thought at that moment.
Okay. Now, what were you thinking at that point when you decided what that was?
I guess I was emotional at that point. While Christine and I had affairs, we had never seen each other with anyone. No one was ever caught in the act or anything like that. Hearing what I thought was sex was upsetting.
So what were you thinking to do? What was your thought process at that point?
I thought about I thought about just getting the lunches and giving them to Valerie and Juliana and having them leave. I thought about just ignoring the situation and going to work and dealing with this after work, hopefully when no one else is there. I thought about how Christine had just taken off the day before because she was originally supposed to be working on the 24th. And I thought about, well, this seems to be why. I thought about, well, maybe this is why she took off on the 24th.
Okay.
Because I didn't know that she took off on the 24th until the night of the 24th.
He thought about all this as he's walking up the stairs, hearing the skin-on-skin contact and moaning, about to walk in her room. He's thinking about, she took off work another day. I wonder if this is also what she was doing the other day. I don't think I need to call the police right now to get them involved. It's like, this absolutely sounds like you thought about it later and tried to like explain what was going on. That's what it felt like to me.
Third.
So what made you stop from your initial thought of leaving and getting the lunches and letting Juliana and Valerie go to the zoo?
I guess as my mind was kind of racing in this moment, the sound, I guess, sounded like it changed to me. Instead of what I thought.
It changed. That's another thing. Why would the sound change? Why would the sound change? Like first they were, getting it on and then Joe just snapped all of a sudden. Like, why would the sound change? Did the sound change? Or if this was real, you would have been like, I walked in expecting to see them having sex and instead I saw something else. Why explain that the sound changed? Because you weren't going to walk in if the sound didn't change? David said, in my opinion, he put the dog in the basement to explain the moans caught on the first 911 call. I don't think he could have expected the first 911 call, right? I think that's like next level planning that I don't think he could have done. CP said, I think they emphasized Lily because they believe they had something big with the audio expert. But I just don't think that, I just don't think the audio expert could have been a plan from the jump, right? Vegas Mel said, your last live did get 11,000 likes. Whitney, here we go. You are correct. It did get 11,000 likes. Whitney will, if she will come on, right? I can't force her to, but I will request respectfully that she comes on with my dad for the next podcast at some point and explains what she thinks of Brendan's testimony. He's Timu Elon Musk. Not bad. Ra Marie said, his testimony was so clunky and horrible, but I did find him and his version more credible than Jay. And this is what I'm talking about. I think this is a real possibility. I don't think Ra Marie is alone. I really don't. Regardless of what I'm going to say about his testimony, I think there are versions of people that are like, this actually makes some sense because he's got an answer for a lot of things. All right. So the noises change, and that's why he decides to go in.
Was the sounds of sex. I thought that the impact sounded forceful, and that
the impact sounds sounded forceful. I'm sorry to keep pausing it, but if I'm a juror, I'm writing down these quotes. If I'm the prosecutor, I'm writing down these quotes. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that's what I like to do. And with a story like this and a guy like this, you've got to take a certain stance and you've got to take a certain vibe on cross. Like, what do you mean the skin on skin? Like, what do you think that was? Now knowing what happened to Christine, what do you think that was? Explain to me what that was, because I don't think you can. And what did the sounds change to? From skin on skin to what? And what do you mean a more forceful impact? Like, what does that mean? That's how you described the sounds. I would have asked for way more detail on all of this that, in my mind, could have been complete BS. Susie said, in the medical field, and I work with pharmacists, doctors, and other professionals who responded in a lot of the same ways, stuttering, etc., high levels of autism and Asperger's have the same tendency at over-explaining. Okay, that's fair. Can it explain describing sounds as skin on skin and sounds getting more forceful and sounds changing when he later testifies only one thing happened to Christine, right? What Joe did to Christine. Touche. Without the huge assist from defendant and his attorney, I still didn't love the Commonwealth's case. I tend to agree. The prosecutor is full of snark and speaking objections, but not so impressive otherwise, in my opinion. I did not think the Commonwealth's case was overly strong. I think at the end of the day, you have to believe Juliana to convict him. Michelle, instead of saying what happened, it seemed like he was correcting them on the details of the story he had devised, similar to Jen McCabe's timeline. Ooh, so that's an interesting reference. Different, not even a defendant in the case. Okay. Suzanne said, your reactions cracked me up. I was LOLing during last night's live, but seriously, thanks for giving me a new appreciation for the importance of justice. I love comments like this. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it's a weird world we live in, right? So we're not going to act like stuff's not weird if it is weird. Jurors are normal people. They're going to go back and think it's weird. That's how it is. And lawyers, we got to deal with weird stuff sometimes. Sometimes I know some weird stuff's going to come out with my client and I've got to deal with that. I deal with it in jury selection. It's where I always start. Some people, when I tell some people what I'm going to say in jury selection, they're like, ooh, and your client's going to be sitting right next to you. I'm like, yeah. And I explain to him why I have to do it this way. If they hate the weird stuff about you, you don't want them on your jury. And if you don't ask, you're never going to find out. The older couple in court are Brendan's parents, not Joe's. Okay. Thank you, April. This guy has a weird way of talking. Before he took the stand, I had doubt it was all him and thought maybe it was all Julianne. But after his testimony, I think he's guilty. Eesh. If you're his lawyer, that's like a brutal comment to watch and a brutal comment to hear, especially if any of the jurors agree.
Christine's moaning sounded painful and not pleasurable, and that the distance.
So it changed. The sound changed, and then he says Christine's moaning sounded painful, not pleasurable.
Between the sounds of the distance between the sound of the skin on skin contact sounded too far apart for sex, and I thought that.
So what does that mean? So what was happening? What was happening? Broken Stereo said he basically called Juliana a hero.
Maybe she was being hurt.
So what did you do?
I started to go up the stairs.
Okay. Did you draw your weapon at any point?
While I was walking up the stairs, I did unholster my weapon and I angled my body going up the stairs so that I was facing the bedroom door, which once you go up several of the stairs, I can see because I'm taller, but I can see the bedroom door was partially open, maybe 8 to 12 inches, something like that.
He could see. Some of us wouldn't be able to see, but he could see. I think she was fighting. If she was, that just doesn't make sense with his story, right? Because he and Joe are able to have an entire conversation while Christine's just laying there. I don't know. Maybe. I would have liked to hear him explain it if I was the prosecutor.
But I couldn't really see in the door.
But were you able to determine whether that was the area where these sounds were coming from?
That is, I could tell that was the direction of the sound. It was coming from the master bedroom area. That's the only door towards the left once you go upstairs.
Okay. When you, from the main landing by the front door, to get to the top level, describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the level that you're talking about where the sounds were coming from.
So once again, you would go up several stairs, and then there would be a small landing, and then you would go up one step to another small landing, in which then you would kind of U-turn or switch back and go up another 8 or 9 stairs to the top floor. I don't know exactly how many stairs, maybe 16 or 18 total, but like 8 at the bottom, and then the landing, then 8 at the top, and then you're at the upstairs hallway.
Okay. Given what you'd heard, did you go right into the room?
Actually, I heard the door open on the main floor when I was by the landing. When I heard the door open on the main floor, I saw Juliana come up partially at the basement door.
Okay, and so you were both on the same.
And you obviously immediately told her, grab the gun, run downstairs and stay with Valerie until I come and get you guys, right? That's what you said to her.
Level at that point?
No, I was on the stairs, heading up the stairs, and I kind of only did a quick glance, seeing that Juliana was there, and then I continued up the stairs.
And did you give her any instructions as to whether to go back to the basement?
I didn't say anything to her.
Okay, so you continued on?
Yes.
But you realized she was there?
I did.
What, if anything, did you do next?
I continued up the stairs and made a left towards the master bedroom.
Okay, and in terms of the landing where the master bedroom is located, Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what way you had to go from the top of the stairs.
I went to the left, as that's the way towards the master bedroom. There's double doors to the master bedroom. To the right would be a bathroom, the guest room, Valerie's bedroom, and Juliana's bedroom.
Why do we need those details? Too many details. Joanne said, Peter, a quick hello. Packing for a cruise on Saturday. Congratulations. Sounds fun. Why would Christine make the date for 7:30 in the morning? Not sure if someone asked. I assume they're going to say she knew everybody was going to be out of the house. But some of those questions were asked, like, did she know you had this big meeting at work? Because he says she set up the whole zoo thing, but did she know about his meeting? If anyone on the jury has any experience with the type of shenanigans CB was supposedly doing, they won't believe that she only got on FetLife when people were home. And like this was her first, I guess we don't know this was her first ever encounter like this, but certainly sounds like it. Would defense use a mock jury to test his testimony? Some do. Some do, some don't. Victoria, thank you so much for gifting a Lawyer You Know membership. I saw some people thanking people for the gifted memberships. And Michelle, thank you for gifting one as well. And McSpunky, thanks for gifting 5. That's awesome.
Now, so you went left at this point?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you do at that point outside the room?
Outside the room, I headed towards the door and I pushed the right of the double doors open with my foot.
And
it was the right one. It was not the left double door. It was the right one of the double doors, and he pushed it open with his foot, not his hand, not his shoulder. It's like, okay. Trish said, in my opinion, it would have been more believable if he said he went up to confront his cheating wife. Yeah, you know what story sounds believable to me is once I heard the moaning, I ran upstairs, busted that door wide open. I don't know what I touched the door with. I don't remember which door I opened. I busted that door wide open and was like, yo. And then when I realized what happened, I freaked out and, ended Joe's life to save Christine, whatever. But like that to me sounds like the more believable story than like, yeah, I walked past the countertops and, the dog food bowl is usually in here. And I went up the stairs and there's about 16 stairs. And then I turned left and there's a bathroom and there's Valerie's room. And I took a right and I walked and I could see because I'm tall and I creaked the door open with my right foot. Those level of details to me, and maybe it's because of what I do, right? That level of detail to me makes it less believable, not more believable, but I do think it does work on some people to make them think it's more believable. Olga, thank you for gifting a membership. And Nate, thank you as well. Tons of memberships getting gifted. Sarah gifted 5 memberships. That's awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Did you otherwise have something in your hands?
Yes, I had my firearm in my hands.
Okay. And when you pushed with your...
So it does start to make sense. Also, I'm going to give him some credit. Why he didn't call 911. He didn't think it was a problem. He thought his wife was cheating. Once he gets in the room, he's got his firearm in his hand. And then it's more understandable that you didn't immediately call 911 right there if you were trying to talk him out of ending Christine's life, right? I can understand that.
Which foot was it?
My right foot.
Okay. And were you able to see or hear any more when you did that?
Pushing the door open with my right foot revealed Christine and who I now know is Joseph Ryan. They were on the floor near the bottom left of my bed, kind of in front of the master bathroom door, just past the bed, in between the bed and the tall dresser.
Okay. So you just described it as the bottom left. Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how do you come to bottom left? What position are you in order to describe it that way?
How do you come to bottom left? I'm not sure what that even means. Katrina said his testimony sounds calculated to me. By expanding on less important points, he was trying to throw the jurors off balance and lose focus, in my opinion. I think he was trying to be like, obviously I'm right. I wouldn't make up every single one of these little details. That's usually, I feel like, what people try to do. Kathy said, dang, am I the only not guilty based on lack of evidence and disbelief of Juliana? Absolutely not, Kathy. I think if you're the only one that votes not guilty when we put up that poll, people are not being honest with how they look at this case, because I promise you there's more than one person out of 5,000 people or however many are here that think he's not guilty or that it hasn't been proven. Not to say that Christine did anything wrong or that it was all Juliana, but that the state hasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did this. I do agree, felt like a little bit of a crutch, the whole ladies and gentlemen of the jury, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Music to my soul said, Whitney hasn't agreed yet, tell her we won't bite. I'm not going to lie to her. Some of you do. Touche said, so glad I'm finally watching live so I can tell you I'm still cracking up about the 80s villain, hot commodity. Not to make light of the tragedy, but the paraphrasing of his testimony is pure comedy. Sometimes it just lends itself to that, especially when I do these later night lives, right? Things get a little off the rails.
If you were in the bed.
Yes, if you were in bed or facing the TV that's in there, the left it would be the bottom left corner. That would be the part that's closest to the master bathroom.
Okay, thank you. And so you indicated you saw Joseph Ryan and Christine.
Yes.
Had you ever seen Joseph Ryan before?
I had never seen Joseph Ryan before.
Had you ever had any communications with him before?
On February 24th is the only time I had communications with him in that room.
Okay, so when you observed this, and please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury exactly what you observed with regard to his contact with Christine.
Christine was, I would describe as nude and on all fours, on her hands and knees, and Joe Ryan was behind her, like angled slightly behind her, and from my position at the door, slightly to the left of her. He was clothed, and he was looking directly at me as I opened the door.
And when you first caught eye contact with him, where exactly were you in relation to the bed, and where were they?
Now, I was maybe one step into the room.
Okay. Now, when you observed him, what, if anything, did you observe about the situation prior to anything being said?
I observed, basically, as soon as I went in the room, it appeared that Christine tried to get up, but I guess I'm unsure if it's that Christine tried to get up or if Joe Ryan pulled her up. It's hard, I can't really tell, but Christine went from being on all fours, hands and knees, to more like being on her knees.
Now, had you said anything to them or to him specifically?
Almost immediately, I said police.
Okay, and what was your intention in doing that?
Alerting the room that I was there.
Okay, and at the time,
I said police to alert the room that I was there. Very weird. What I would have said is I yelled police to try to scare him so that he didn't end my wife's life. And I can't help but think what I would do, right? Like, I think that's what most people are probably thinking when they're listening to the story, to see if it makes any sense. Is that one of the 10 things I would do? Maybe just started firing my weapon. I could have understood why he said that, right? Like, I didn't know what else to do. He never calls out to his wife to see if she's okay. I have way too many questions. I think these sentiments are shared throughout the chat. Team Brittany, thank you for gifting a membership. David as well. Ton of new members, which is awesome. We've got our first members only video in a new series that we're doing, dropping either tomorrow or some point this weekend. So all the new members, make sure you hit the reminder bell and you don't miss that when it comes out. Yeah, Julesa Belful. A lot of people have the same feeling you do.
that you said police, was your gun in plain sight?
Yes, I was holding my gun forward.
And your badge, was that in plain sight?
My badge is on my belt, so that I don't know if he could see it, but it is a gold badge that is attached to my belt.
And so, if you think of it as a clock around you, where would, at what point can you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where your badge would be?
Like,
Why do we care where his badge is? Like, what significance does that have? Right? I don't get that. Sorry, I'm going to save that one to later. Peter, am I too overly critical now that I have my internet law degree, or is the defense really that bad? Has to be intentional, brutal. I don't think he's great, but I wouldn't say he's like the worst I've ever seen. I think a lot of times people start to apply the defendant to the defense attorney, and I think there's probably part of that happening with you as well. If she was stabbed 7 times, she was screaming, not moaning. His story doesn't make any sense. I tend to agree, especially the way he explains now this interaction with Joe Ryan, which is some of the most illogical testimony that he had. I couldn't get to guilty beyond a reasonable doubt when the Commonwealth rested, but the defense's case got me to guilty AF, Casey said. And I've seen way more of that than I expected. Way more of it.
11 o'clock. So just to kind of in front of my left pants pocket.
Okay. And were you wearing a jacket over that area?
I was wearing a jacket that day.
Do you know if it was covering it or not?
No, I don't know if it was covered. I don't know if it was covering it at that moment. I don't remember if my jacket was zipped or not. And it's February, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if my jacket is zipped or not.
In terms of seeing the badge, you didn't pull it out and show it or anything?
I did not.
Okay. You just said police.
Yes.
And what happened from there?
Christine responded first. Christine said, Brendan, he has a knife.
Now, before she said that, could you tell, did you see any weapons at that point?
I didn't see a weapon. I didn't see a weapon at my initial viewing of the scene in that first couple seconds.
So Michelle brings up a good point. And one of the other illogical parts of this entire story is Joe Ryan, who is on this site, who Christine reaches out to. Christine convinces to do this plot and plan. And yet she screamed out that he had a knife, even though she told him to bring a knife. So that wouldn't be surprising. But if I would counter, I'd say she didn't expect him to use it the way that he was. Okay, fine. But it's not a logical thing to describe how they would set it up like this. He would show up seeming to have a good time, and then it turned into what Brendan explains. There's still a logical disconnect there to me. I agree with Michelle. P, later when BB is discussing his wife wanting, I keep putting this one up. I'm going to wait till that actually comes up. If Jay did this by herself, when did she stab with Jay's knife? Why did Jay just hang around until B got home? Why didn't Jay call 911? I don't think he's going with the fact that, I don't think he's trying to blame Juliana. I don't think he's trying to say Juliana set all this up. I think he's saying Christine set this up and Joe turned out to be like a psycho killer, I guess. I heard someone say liars convince, truth tellers convey. All these bizarre details don't sound truthful to me. I'm a CSI in Florida. I had reasonable doubt until today. He's done. That's a tough look when you're convicting yourself, basically. Why would he go back there when he first thought it was an affair? They've had affairs before. Sounds like he wasn't interested in seeing it. I agree, but if you don't know for sure, I can understand going to basically make sure everything's okay. And there's Nurse of Interest. We knew it was coming eventually. 20 more Lawyer You Know memberships. You don't have to do this every time, but I know the people appreciate it, and all the new members certainly do. So thank you.
After Christine said that to you, were you able to identify it?
I observed that there was something silver in Joe Ryan's right hand, but it was still difficult to see, as part of it would be in his grip and part of it seemed to be inside of Christine's hair.
Okay, and I think you'd said previously, did Christine have long hair?
Christine had pretty long hair that goes.
We're clear. When, at the time that you said police, what was the position of Joe Ryan and what was the position of Christine?
Joe Ryan was also on the floor. I would say that he was in a kneeling position, on the floor, partially behind Christine, partially behind the bed.
Okay, and the bed, is the bed high?
The bed is, I would say the bed is very high for a lot of people. It has storage dressers underneath the bed, and there was
not high for him though, because he's tall, right? Am I the only one that believes my significant other would never cheat? I tend to believe that, and I never would, right? Not that we're always perfect. We fight plenty. We find things to fight about, but yeah, I think that too. You're not alone, and you should feel that way, right? You should. I'm not going to be cynical about that. I know a lot of people will, and that's fine if they want to be, but I'm not going to be. That's exactly how I feel. Real, tractor mower. Thank you, E. Bendis, for gifting 5 more Lawyer You Know memberships.
Was it a foundation under it, and then the mattress itself is a thick mattress too.
Okay. So from your vantage, have you changed your vantage point? I think you'd said one step into the room.
Yeah,
You change your vantage point one step into the room. Do you remember that movie? Was it called Vantage Point? Where they like told the story from 9 different vantage points from how everybody was viewing it? It's kind of a cool movie. Not once did he ever refer to what happened as his wife ate red rum. She just died. Yet we are to believe that Joe Ryan attacked his wife. No, the separation was really difficult on his daughter. The separation. I agree with you. Because like think about in your mind, if what he's saying is true, how you view that event, it's just like you say. You'd be like, this guy killed my wife. He took Valerie's mom away from forever.
I'd only basically gone 1, maybe 2 steps into the room, and I didn't go further. I didn't go further at that point.
Now, when you said police, what, if anything, did Joe Ryan say to you?
Joe Ryan didn't say something until after I told him to drop the knife.
Okay. And what was his response?
He told me to drop my gun.
And at that point, was there, well, let me ask you this. You saw a knife there. What were you thinking in terms of?
Joe Ryan told him to drop his gun. Weird. I mean, I guess possible, but weird. No need to call the police because you thought it was her cheating. But if you found it necessary to unholster your weapon, make it make sense. I mean, if you walk in and you see the knife and you immediately pull out your weapon, I don't think you're going to be like, I'm going to put it back to call 911. I do get that. Like, listen, we can disagree, but like, I do kind of understand that. I think Jay's version had issues as she tried to downplay her role, but she was much more credible than B. I'll find that out when you guys start voting on guilty or not guilty. By the way, has everybody hit the like button? If you haven't, take a second, take a breath during this testimony, hit the like button. We're about to be at the 1 hour mark, and we're not even done with direct. We still have to go through his cross as well. So we've got a lot of time left. Sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and let's keep going.
Joe Ryan with a knife to Christine's neck.
I was extremely terrified. I don't know that I've ever been more panicked in my life.
And so what were you thinking that you needed to do?
I was hoping to de-escalate the situation. I did not want to shoot him. I wanted him to let her go.
And so after he said you
I think there was some emotion there, right? Seemingly some real emotion to me, to my eye.
dropped the gun, what did you say?
I repeated to drop the knife and to let her go.
And did he say anything to you?
He did. He told me that she was hers. That she was hers, and that she gave herself to me. And Christine kind of yelled, moaned at this point also.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said she was hers.
She was his. Sorry, she was his.
Can you say the whole statement?
I would not have asked him to say the whole thing again because, again, that sounds coached and practiced. Doesn't bother me, but people that do hate when lawyers do that, when you're like, repeat the line that we actually practiced as opposed to the way that you said it, didn't love that. Didn't love that. Judy said, during the prosecution case, I thought he probably did it, but can't vote guilty, not proving it. The more I heard of the defense, the more I leaned toward guilty. Now I'm not buying what he is selling. Thank you, Bird Mad Girl, for another gifted membership.
He said that she was his, and that she gave herself to him, to me, is what she gave herself to me, is what he said.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I interrupted. What happened then?
Christine kind of yelled or moaned, or both, and it seems that she went to her left, my right, a little bit.
Okay. Now, when she yelled,
Who explains things like that? She went to her left, my right. I don't know. It's like too technical. It's correct. Like I don't mean to say it's not correct, but it's just a little too technical. Tiffany said, as an ICU nurse of 9 years, I guarantee you a conversation is not happening with Christine aspirating and choking on her own blood, especially with the evidence of 8 stabs in the neck. Agree. This makes no sense that this conversation is going on between him and Joe if he had already heard the skin to skin contact and the contact getting more forceful. And you hear later about what state that she was in. And I think the prosecutor does, again, touch on this and cross. Not enough, in my opinion. She does bring it up. So if somebody like you's on the jury, they're thinking that. That's what you have to do. You have to get the medical people. I've never had a jury with people with zero medical background on it. The jury I just picked, I think half the jury had some kind of medical background. Big Tree says, grateful for this live. Actually, in a LTR with a Brazilian au pair, her and I are in utter horror at what's going on here. Love the channel and chat. Yeah, it sucks for her, right? Because it's like people are going to be looking at her when they hear about this case like, oh, you're one of them, huh? It sucks. Like, this is not normal life. This should not be real life. Unfortunately, it is.
Moaned. What did that indicate to you?
I thought that she was being injured, being stabbed.
Did you see him stab her?
It appeared that he was putting forward movement towards, or
What? Did you see him stab her? Yes, that's what it looked like to me. It appeared that he was putting forward movement. That's what he said.
that he was putting forward movement towards, or it seemed that he was putting forward movement towards with the knife, but I couldn't see Christine's neck or face really at that point. Her hair was in the way.
Okay. So if you can explain for the ladies.
It's like he didn't want to be like, well, maybe I wouldn't be able to see that because it was in her hair or where I was standing, that'd be blocked. It's like you're standing in a bedroom pointing a firearm at a guy that's holding a knife. You couldn't tell whether or not he was stabbing? Like, come on.
Jury, why it was you couldn't see Christine's face or her neck?
Christine's hair was, I would describe as kind of wild at this point. Not normally it's brushed and straight, or well, not really. I mean, it's still curly, but it's more kept. It was kind of large and frizzy at this point, and I couldn't really see very well.
Okay. And so I interrupted you. So we'll go ahead and tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you were following up with.
What? So sorry, I interrupted you. So tell the ladies and members of the jury what you followed up with. I just, again, that's tough. You got to have an outline, right? You don't want to read it, but you got to follow along.
I'm sorry, I don't.
So
yeah, he's like, what, dude? Like, what was that? That was supposed to tee me up for something? I don't even know what you're saying there.
You indicated in your previous answer that you couldn't see whether or not he had stabbed her in the neck or made contact with the neck.
Correct.
Okay. And that she had made some sort of a sound and pulled away.
Yes. So she kind of moved to her left and to my right, but my best guess is that he had a grip on maybe the back of her neck, maybe the back of her hair. I can't see his left hand at this point, and so she did not really go anywhere.
Did she appear to be?
I cannot see his left hand. Those details, I'm telling you, those details don't do it for me. Kathy, Peter, I like how you see it from both sides of the fence. I really try to. I really try to keep an open mind. I try to see the defendant as presumed innocent. And frankly, you guys are going to hate to hear this. I could still vote not guilty, even if I completely do not believe a defendant's testimony. Like if I believe he told a story that makes no sense, I still would not have to convict if I don't think the state proved that he did it beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I do think his testimony can help the state prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And like the big lie, when you talk about Murdoch, that was some of the best evidence against him. It's like, why lie about that? Why did you lie about that? Peter, you're having to testify about this horrific event involving your loved one even years later and you don't cry? Oh, I'd be crying like a baby. I wouldn't be able to get through this testimony if this was my wife and I showed up and saw it. Had my hands in her neck. Like, no way. Paula, thank you for gifting a membership. Commonwealth not calling witnesses to speak to their marriage made me wonder if mutual affairs and CB being interested in BDSM may be true. Commonwealth case felt desperate with mega liars deal, IRS guy dress code evidence. So I was surprised that we weren't able to hear more about their relationship if it really was bad. And people are like, oh, they never proved, the affairs and stuff. It's like, if the jury believes Brendan Banfield that she had affairs, they did prove it because that's evidence if they find it credible. Peter, later on when BB is discussing his wife wanting that sort of play abuse, can you please tell us why the Commonwealth can't bring character witnesses for Christine? Friends, maybe these are the things girls talk about. I think they could have brought evidence to say, like, absolutely not. She never did that before. We knew her. We knew what she was like her whole life, blah, blah, blah. Now, the cross could have been like, you didn't know what she was like in the bedroom. You never, had relations with her. You didn't know about these affairs. But they could have brought somebody to say that's not true, basically to impeach his testimony. Why wasn't there any character witnesses? Women tend to talk secrets to one another. Was she really into the kinky stuff affairs? Too many questions. I agree. I think they could have put forth some evidence that impeached what Brendan said. Now, at the end of the day, I think there would be good cross that you don't know everything everybody does in the bedroom, even your best friends. I'm a psychotherapist and nurse and have experience in behavior patterns. He is not believable. His story makes no sense. Wait till you see him unravel on cross. Michelle, how was she on all fours and Joe was on his knees, but she was getting stabbed in the front of her neck with forward movement? Huh? I agree too. The logistics and movements of the body, even though he's being very specific, don't make sense to me either. Is there ever a situation where testifying in your own defense is a good idea? Absolutely. Absolutely. Plenty of people have testified in their own defense and won. If I think back to the most recent one, maybe Kyle Rittenhouse is the first one that comes to mind. I hate using boyfriend. I'm fine not being married, but boyfriend reminds me of high school. It's funny.
Injured greater than what you thought when you saw her?
It appeared that she had some amount of, I believe that she had some amount of blood in her hair at this point.
From where you can see it?
Yes.
So like she is being stabbed multiple times. I think it was like 7 times or something. All while he's like having a conversation, telling him to drop the knife, screaming police, looking at, what her hair looks like. So all of this is happening while his wife is getting stabbed. That sometimes can be a problem when you break it down microsecond by microsecond. That's not even a word. Millisecond.
Now, let me just ask you this. Other than your training, had you ever shot a person before?
I had never used my firearm outside of a range situation.
And just to clarify my question,
Cardi B also testified in her own defense and won.
It sounds like you had shot somebody in training. You just did training, correct?
I did not shoot anybody in training. I have not.
I thought this was a big point. Like, he never shot anybody before. So like, we're really going to believe this was the first time? Like, this whole plan, this diabolical killer, like this is really the first time he's ever fired his firearm at somebody? I thought that was interesting. That was a good point by the defense. O.J. Simpson also testified in his own defense and won.
Used my weapon in duty at any point, or the only time I had used my firearm was at a gun range or at training.
Okay. Was that a concern for you while you were in the moment?
There wasn't a lot of space between Joe and Christine. I was very fearful of hitting Christine.
And so
I get that. Listen, I get that. And we've all seen the movies where they're holding a knife up to somebody's neck and kind of hiding behind somebody. And it's like, the guy that's like the best shot in the police class is the guy with the gun. Can he really do it when it matters? That's very different when you see a guy wailing on your wife with a knife and you see blood. Like, at that point, no holds barred. Like, you got to stop what's happening, dude. It's a different scenario. It's not like you're a sniper and you're far away and he doesn't know you're there and maybe you can do this or maybe not do this if he's not doing anything. He was an agent and talking details is important to him. He took time to tell his story and he told how long it took formally this to happen. Likely the dog saved the day. Juliana plotted. Okay. In my opinion, Jay's version makes more sense in explaining everything in the evidence than B's. He isn't believable in any way. Now, if I'm going to play devil's advocate there and I was the defense, I would say, yeah, that's because Jay was given all the evidence to make sure her testimony lined up with the evidence. Brendan's telling you what actually happened.
Well, what, if anything?
Why couldn't he tell Jay to call 911 at this point? Agreed. Great point. Great point. Cat Unfiltered. That's a great point.
When the time came, well, were you considering using your firearm?
Yes.
At what point did that start?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. I stand corrected. OJ tried on the glove. He did not testify. I just remember the picture of him trying on the glove. That went well for him, right? The dried up, bloody glove.
I mean, very quickly in the situation, but there's only, his head isn't far from Christine's head. I guess his part of his body is partially behind Christine's body. Part of his body is behind the bed. It's a very tight situation.
Okay. And so,
I get that, right? Like, I've never shot anybody before. That would be scary. Will he ever get around to mentioning the blood? They do talk about the blood later. We'll talk about it. But yeah, you would think that he'd be able to see some now with that knife and the forceful movements he was describing.
you delayed from your first instinct?
Judge, objection is to leading.
What, if anything, did you do
That
then?
was just stating the objection.
I mean, I know that I told him to let her go at least one more time, and then I know that I told him that he was going. I told him that he was going to be under arrest.
Like, what? We're past that, dude. In your own description of the events, we are so past the you're under arrest.
I missed that. At some point, he asked for me to leave, and at a different point, he asked for himself to leave.
And what did you say to those requests?
At that point, that was when I told him that he was under arrest.
Okay.
This is an awful long conversation while somebody's being stabbed.
Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what, if anything, took place that caused you to discharge your firearm?
It appeared that he did a very forceful stab towards Christine, and Christine kind of...
I thought you said it was very forceful earlier. Very forceful forward type movement. But now again, it's very forceful.
spun away from him. So she was facing towards me, and I guess she like rotated as she spun away from him and landed on her stomach on the ground. This kind of had Joe now like on his knees, kind of facing Christine, of which I saw him do a downward stabbing stroke, and that's when I fired at him.
And when you fired, were you able to determine whether or not you made contact?
I didn't know where I made contact, but I believed that I made contact as he moved.
Okay.
He moved backwards, he moved backwards a little bit away from Christine at that point.
And what did you do?
I immediately hurried towards Christine, and I actually stepped over her, and I told her to stay down as I stepped over her. I did this so that I could look at Joe Ryan and see if he was still a threat.
And what, if anything, did you see when you went over there?
I saw the knife on the floor.
Okay. Was that the first time you saw the knife in its full?
That was the first time I could fully see the knife. The other times, it was in his grip and obscured by Christine's hair.
And the knife that you saw is the same knife that you've seen in the Commonwealth's photos?
Yes.
Okay. Before, at some point, did you help Christine?
At that moment, I did not help Christine yet. I used my foot and dragged the knife towards me with my toe to move.
Again, I'm not a superhero IRS agent. I would grab that knife, make sure Joe couldn't get his hands on it, and immediately be tending to my wife. If she was as in bad of shape as he says she was in, and he didn't stab her, then she was in as bad a shape as, everybody in the jury saw. Again, things not adding up. I think some folks are overestimating how much anyone in the kink community shares with non-intimate friends about their kinks, especially rough stuff. Yeah, I don't know. And I know that if I was cross-examining, it would be an easy cross-examination. Like, you don't know what your friends do in the bedroom. Come on. Like, you know that. They may tell you some of it, but nobody tells you everything. Sandy, thank you for gifting 5 Lawyer memberships.
The knife away from Joe.
Okay, so if you can, so that there's an image in their minds, can you explain from stepping over Christine to doing what you just said with the knife?
I probably need to take another step or two to get closer to Joe. The knife was very close to Joe.
We're talking about this in a matter of inches, what he did. My explanation is I ran to my wife and tried to stop the bleeding. I was losing it. Right? Like that's the answer, I feel like.
It's like I reached my right foot forward. I still had my gun pointed at him. So I reached my right foot forward and I guess it stuck my toe out and dragged it back towards me so that it was not next to him.
Okay. And what would you say the distance was where the knife was when you first touched it with your foot? I'm sorry, the distance from Joe Ryan when you first touched it with your foot?
Not more than a foot and a half.
Okay. And when you removed it from the area around him, how far was it from Joe Ryan?
Maybe 5 or 6 feet, but immediately next to me.
Okay. So what did you do then next?
I didn't notice that Joe was moving. And
well, let me ask you this. Did you ever touch Joe?
I never touched Joe at any point during this encounter.
Okay. And when you moved the knife, what did you then, what happened next?
I turned around and faced Christine. And I kneeled down next to her.
Okay. And what was her position at the time that you kneeled down next to her?
At that point, she was on her stomach. She was kind of writhing back and forth, kind of rolling back and forth. And I guess at some point, pretty quickly, she rolled over onto her back.
Was that with your assistance?
At that point, she was doing that on herself. I don't think that I helped her roll onto her back.
Okay. What, if anything, were you doing to assist her at that point?
So she was holding her neck. And she told me that she couldn't see. And I asked her to let me see, indicating that her hand was covering her neck. And she very shakily removed her hand from her neck, and I could see the wound on the right side of her neck.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do at that point?
She told me to put my hand there, and she had put her hand back on her neck, and then I put my left hand on top of her hand, but she pulled her hand from underneath mine and put her hand back on top of my hand and put pressure on my hand, I think indicating that she wanted more pressure on the wound.
Okay, so he does describe that he gets like a comforter and a towel to wipe up the blood, and then a very weird description of Joe Ryan gets back up and he feels somebody strike him on the shoulder, which was random, but that Juliana fired the weapon at Joe Ryan, basically the hero saving his life, and then calls 911 finally, and she was like stuttering on 911, so he takes over. He says what happened on 911, which again we've already heard, we've already kind of talked about. He talks about how he was trying to clean it up. He checked her pulse was weak. He was in a panic. Then we finally get to the windows, and he talks about how long the quotes took. They started in early 2021, 12 to 15 vendors. I felt like that was a bit of a shot at the window guy. He's like, I wasn't lying. I actually was getting other competitive pricing, sir. So they went through that. He said it was completely ridiculous. It's like whenever somebody really gets mad that you say they did something, you just call it completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous that I would have Juliana test that. He's like, I later told her that the neighbors probably didn't hear the gunshot because of the triple pain. That must be where she got that part of her story. Then they talk about how Juliana's lawyer came to his house to record Lily. And that's where we got the recordings that they did the audio comparisons of between the dog and the 911 calls, which each side called an expert on that. Neither of them were amazing, in my opinion. I'm not sure how much that moves the needle for either side. He's never heard of FetLife, never knew Christine used it. This was interesting, and they didn't dig into it anymore. But there was a question. Did you know about Craigslist or Backpage ads? And he said no, except for Christine maybe selling something on Craigslist. I was like, what's that about? Was Christine on Backpage ads? Was she like searching for boyfriends on Craigslist? That was something that piqued my interest. He tried to say, what would you do differently if you could? Objection relevance was sustained. And then he said, why did you shoot Joe Ryan? He was hurting Christine. I only wish I would have shot him earlier, which is what the lawyer was trying to get. So then we get to the cross. And Gabriella said, Peter, was it appropriate for the prosecutor to ask BB about his pretrial silence? If you want my opinion, absolutely not. I don't think it was helpful, number one. If they win this case, that's probably my number one appellate issue, is that she held against me my pre-arrest silence, even when my lawyer told me to. And my answer was, upon recommendation of counsel, I did not, tell this story, or I didn't tell the cops this full story. I did tell them what happened, but not to this detail. It's my Fifth Amendment right. Now, I get it. He wasn't under arrest. It shouldn't be incriminating if you're not saying that you committed any crimes, right? But all the reasons you'd be able to use in normal cases. I can think of reasons why Judge A allowed this to happen, but that should not have happened, in my opinion. And I would absolutely not have done it if I was the prosecutor. It's doing too much. Why blow this on that? If an appellate court who takes this stuff pretty seriously listens, and she digs in. She asked it 2 or 3 times. And when the judge said you can, sometimes you should still think twice as a prosecutor and be like, should I? Maybe not if it's close. And then no harm, no foul. But nope, they asked again and again and made sure the jury knew he never told this story to the cops ever. He wasn't talking to the cops. Why don't you talk to the cops unless you're guilty or unless you're making up this story? Which is the vibe I got from it and the worst part of Cross, in my opinion. And I really don't think it helped her. I think she had plenty of good other arguments and good questions. And she asked some good questions. And we're going to listen to some of them now.
Approach.
Sorry, thank you. Let's try that again. You didn't tell the police in the house. You didn't tell them in the driveway. You didn't tell them at the hospital. You didn't tell them back at the station, correct?
I said what I did on the 911 call. I was not questioned by the police at the house, in the driveway, in the ambulance about what had happened.
Okay, but you were questioned at the police station. You didn't tell them then, right?
Actually, I was not questioned at the police station.
Okay. It's been 3 years. You have not had an opportunity to tell the police in the last 3 years what happened?
Yes, they have requested to speak to me. The police did request Detective Bryant, I believe, requested to speak to me at the hospital, not at the police station. And yes, they did request to speak to me through my attorney subsequently.
Okay, and you were
Saying it depends on the state. Fifth Amendment right to the United States Constitution is a big deal in every state. Shelley said he talked so bad about his wife, but not about Juliana. Christine would be alive if medical got there 13 minutes earlier. Brutal. Miss Vicky, if she were on her knees, why would she have to rotate to end up on her stomach? His whole description of how her body moved and where it was made no sense to me. Anime. Another great live, Peter. We're not, it feels like we should be done because we're an hour and 20 minutes in, but we're just getting started, it feels like. You inspire me to be a better man, and more importantly, to be more Christ-like. Jesus loves you, Peter, in chat, you know. Hey, I appreciate that. That's the best compliment you can give me. The number one compliment you can give me. So I appreciate that. That's gonna give me the energy I need now to push through and keep going for our 2-hour live. I think this is going to turn into.
given the opportunity to tell a court what happened when you were brought in to testify at Juliana's preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and at that point in time, you didn't tell anybody this story, right?
I was advised that that defense of others is not relevant for preliminary hearings, and it was my intention that I was going to testify at Juliana's trial.
Okay, but at the preliminary hearing, you didn't even admit to Christine being your wife, correct?
That's what I was instructed to by my attorney.
Okay, so now that you've heard all of the evidence.
And holding that against him, that he wouldn't even say Christine was his wife at a preliminary hearing, which there's like a legal reason for that, and then you don't have to, right? And then to use it against him at trial, like to me, that feels totally inappropriate to me. Maybe they have some law where you're allowed to do some stuff like that. That feels utterly inappropriate to me and against the Constitution. I hated every second of it. Every second of it. Then we get to some of the love letters where she's like, it wasn't serious with Juliana, right? You didn't love her, did you? He's like, well, I told her I did. And he's like, oh, so you just told her you did. Let's talk about some Discord chats. She broke up with you, didn't she? And he's like, yeah, she did multiple times. And then he said one of the grossest things, we didn't really fall in love until the summer of 2023, which is after Christine died. And he says he never loved her like he loved Christine. And they go through a ton of these jail letters. But I found this very interesting and a very good line of questioning on cross. I thought the jail letters were very good to do because they made him look horrible and like a jerk any way you cut it, right? Like it doesn't matter what explanation he's going to have for all that. He looks like a jerk. But when I heard about, because he said, oh, I never use any of that. And did I miss the part where he said, there was also a part maybe on direct that I forgot to talk about where, oh yeah, he didn't want to harm Christine in their sex life. He wanted more sex than she did, but she wanted like the weird, rough stuff. And that's why he thinks they had affairs. So clearly he got out that she wanted like the violent fetish stuff, which I think he has to testify to, right? Because everybody's wondering it. I'm wondering it, like this all just came out of the blue. That makes no sense. But he testified to it, put evidence out there. So turns out Christine is not the only one with some fetishes. And I thought this was a great thing to bring up by the state because of exactly how he described that. Unruly said the emotion was just not there the whole time. So sad. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And so does Shazzy Shires. If someone I loved was getting attacked, I would not have so many thoughts going up 16 steps at 16 seconds. I would have thought, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I wouldn't have had a conversation with the dude that was forcefully moving the knife towards my wife.
Okay, and if we can pull this down. I can have you take a look at Commonwealth 250. Do you recognize this letter?
Yes.
Again, you to Juliana?
Yes.
And in this one, you're discussing baby names for your future children with her?
That is something that you wanted to talk about.
Okay. Judge, I would offer this into evidence. All right, together for the rest of our lives, feelings did not exist. Okay.
Sorry, I thought I skipped these.
Who you met on a fetish site.
Yes.
Okay, and one of those affairs was with a woman named Danielle, who you met on a fetish site searching for sugar babies. Is that correct?
I would not call it a fetish site.
Okay, what would you call it?
An arranged relationship.
Okay, but you were looking for someone to be your sugar baby?
I guess it was a.
It's freezing. Let me refresh here. Because we can't miss out on the sugar babies here.
Okay, did you need to kill your wife to get her back?
Definitely not.
Okay. You had multiple affairs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and one of those affairs was with a woman named Danielle, who you met on a fetish site searching for sugar babies. Is that correct?
I would not call it a fetish site.
I don't know why I can't get this thing to go full screen now, but whatever.
Okay, what would you call it?
An arranged relationship.
Okay, but you were looking for someone to be your sugar baby?
I guess it was a relationship where they would already know that I was married. That was what I was looking for.
Okay. Another one of your affairs was with your best friend's wife. Is that correct?
No. First, he's not my best friend. Number two, they were not married. They were not even together at that point.
They were, is that your understanding of what they believed, or is that how you perceived their relationship? Did they think they were together?
I don't think so. My understanding is that she wanted to be with him and they were not together at that point.
Okay,
But no, they were definitely not married at that point or anything like that.
okay, but you were married at that point.
Yes, I was married at that point.
All right, thank you.
The prosecutor's like, whatever. At the end of the day, I can still make you look like a scumbag because you were a scumbag. It's like you had an affair with your best friend's wife. You went on a fetish site. You got some sugar babies. It's all bad. It's all bad. How would you handle this if you had a client who insisted on getting on the stand and did this, and with the surprise rebuttal witness at the end, it would have been completely different. I would have been like, go ahead, tell your story. What happened? Tell the jury what happened. I would not have asked a billion. The lawyer was too involved in the direct, in my opinion. It was too much back and forth. I would have gotten to the point quicker, be like, you got to tell it quicker. Don't give all these details. And if you want to, fine, whatever. I would have given my advice. And if a client still want to do it, then they can. Blue in the face. I'm very tall. Husband came home. If my very tall husband came home to find me attacked and screaming for help and putting full hands on my assailant, there is no other response. So you have a very tall husband. That's good. In my opinion, the prosecutor saw how the jury reacted to his testimony and she decided to keep her cross brief. This could very well be true. Jen K. Smith, yes, OT, OT, OT. Hit that like button, everybody. Yes, please. This is almost like 2 videos. And I've been working all day. So I'm tired, but we're still here. And I'm excited to get through the rest of this cross.
Let's talk about Christine and her apparent decision to solicit someone to fake rape her. You would agree, you have not seen today, nor are you aware of any phone history, computer history, indicating that she was interested in this type of relationship prior to January of 2020.
Objection, compound question. I would absolutely object to that. Make her break it up, make it make sense. But that's the question on everybody's mind. You haven't seen any evidence that she had any history of stuff like this. Lawyer You Know is the best TV show ever. Doing great, P. Thank you so much. The real me here. Technical difficulties an hour and a half in is like, whatever. We're here now. We're riding.
3, correct?
I was aware that she was interested in this type of thing, but I was unaware of the messages or that she was pursuing this again, as it had been many years since she had expressed those feelings.
Okay, but there is no internet history that you're aware of predating January 2023, correct?
I'm not, could you ask that a different way?
Okay. When, from what you've seen in court, she sets this up, she's using a profile picture from a gym bathroom with like a Barbie doll, I think it's an Ariel doll in the picture. And that's a photo that she sent to you on that day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did she have any other pictures in her Facebook cache that she could have used that you're aware of?
I don't know.
Okay, you never looked at her Facebook?
Yes, I look at her Facebook, but I don't use social media very much.
Okay. You presented us with 20 plus pictures yesterday. Were any of those photos available to her? They all came from her Facebook page, correct?
I don't know where they came from. I didn't arrange for them.
Oh, okay. Those weren't your photos that you were sharing with us?
Some of them appeared to be my photos, but I don't know. Some of them
appeared to be my photos. It's like, dude, everybody knows you had a hand in this defense. Like, come on.
I believe were my mother's. Some of them I think were Christine's. A lot of times Christine and I, if we were to share photos, we shared them on Messenger.
Okay. All right. And in the pictures that you all had shared on Messenger, there was not a single other photo of Christine where she wasn't in a public bathroom that she could have used as her profile photo?
I think this was a dumb line of questioning because, like, I think there's tons of people that use bathroom, like mirror, gym selfies, whatever, for profile pictures. So I don't know why that was so suspicious. I think the fact that it's like she took this and immediately sent it to you, and this was also the one she decided to use, something like that I think would have worked. Mindy T, thanks for gifting 5 Lawyer You Know memberships.
Sure, she could choose whatever profile photo she would have wanted. I don't know why. I mean, it appears that she took the photo that day and used the photo that day for herself.
Okay. When these solicitations occurred between Christine and the other users on FetLife, she was looking for someone that she expected to engage with her sight unseen, correct? There were not to be any meetings in public in advance of this hookup. Correct?
That is what the messages seem to appear.
Okay. And she was only doing this when either you or Juliana were home, correct?
It appeared to me that it happened when I was not home based on what was presented today often.
Right, but Juliana was home, correct?
I don't necessarily know where Juliana was at those points.
You just know that you weren't there, correct?
Well, we went through lots of the evidence that showed that there was many times.
You see the prosecutor's smile there? She's like, yeah, you made sure of that, didn't you? A lot of confidence there. Was there any proof of her being into the FET stuff other than him saying it? I don't think there was anything other than him saying it, other corroborating evidence. I'm trying to think. Something else came up. When did it come up? I don't think so. I don't think there was anything else. But on redirect, he talks about how she had a BDSM relationship and had bruises all over her, years prior, which again, he had a lot to say where if you believed him, there was plenty of evidence that she was into this sort of stuff. Steph said, I'm autistic and suspicious behavior isn't autism. I agree. Things can look different and not be suspicious or look like this guy's testimony. Jen, thanks for gifting 5 more. Jen's just been gifting them all. She loves overtime.
I wasn't there. There was points that showed that the messages were logged into from the CBRN email that Juliana states that she has no knowledge of, never logged into, doesn't know the password to. And so if Juliana is the home, whether she is or not, the only other person that is home is Christine that can use, that can.
But most importantly,
He's like, that's exactly how I set up this case. I'm just kidding. But I think that's what the prosecution wants the jury to think. Listen to him explain this. He set this up and he's going to explain it to you exactly like he set it up. Don't let him get away with it. Just like the Walsh case. It's like, don't let him get rid of the body and then get away with it because he committed that additional crime.
you are not home, correct?
It appears that there was many messages that were sent while I was home and many messages that were sent while I wasn't home.
I am asking, you were not home.
There is both messages that from when I was home and when I was not home, it
Okay.
appears.
Okay. So
I think this prosecutor also made the decision that was smart. Like, I'm not going to go back and forth and argue 100 times with him over something. Music addict. I agree. Like when they're on vacation, she's not going on FetLife. Like that seems like prime time to go on FetLife, right? That doesn't make much sense to me either.
the person that she picked again was one who was willing to come to her home, not a hotel, without any sort of public meetup first, as seemed to be the ask from most of the other participants on FetLife. Accurate?
I didn't read the other messages between other people.
Okay. And this person needed to be willing to bring a knife, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't see an ask for the knife.
No problem. You were present for your daughter's birth. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, were you aware that Christine received
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit about the blood
to
stuff.
be
What he did.
minutes after everyone had left the house to go to the zoo, to go to the big meeting, right?
I don't.
You hadn't shared with her your plan to go to your. When you set this whole thing up,
I didn't set this whole thing up.
I'm sorry, when Christine set
It almost looked like he wanted to smirk. That was one of those, what's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like, that's what I wanted to do when I was listening to this and I was like, oh, I got to go watch and see his face. It almost sounded like she tried to slip one in. He's like, oh, no, you're not going to slip that in on me. But he almost smirked, right?
when you set this whole thing up,
I didn't set this whole thing up.
I'm sorry, when Christine set this whole thing up, it was scheduled to occur minutes after her family was leaving the house at 7 a.m.-ish, correct?
I don't know what time her family was leaving the house.
Oh, you hadn't shared with her your plan to go to your meeting early the next morning?
I didn't have a meeting the next. I'm sorry. Can you ask the question again?
Sure, the night before on the 23rd,
Oh,
right?
23rd,
When
sorry.
she is setting this up, she's scheduling it to occur at 7:20-ish a.m., which was going to be minutes after everyone had left the house to go to the zoo, to go to the big meeting, right?
That is what the messages seem to say.
Okay, and are you telling us that your wife was not aware that you had this big meeting scheduled for the 24th?
She was aware that I had the meeting scheduled.
Okay, and was she aware that the nanny was taking your daughter to the zoo?
It appears to me that she arranged for Juliana to take Valerie to the zoo. She got the parking tickets to take her to the zoo. She had planned it, I don't know, a week, 10 days prior.
Right, and the zoo opens at 8 o'clock and everyone's leaving at 7, but she scheduled Joe Ryan to come over at 7:20. Is that correct?
I don't know what time she scheduled exactly.
Okay, and you indicated that
I do think that is a thing that like that timeline doesn't make sense. Again, not everything has to make sense, but that's enough. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. Daybreak said, if I was going to end someone's life in self-defense or in defense of another, I would 100% wait until consulting a lawyer before talking to police. DA shouldn't have mentioned 100%. That's how you should, because whatever they think of you, they will file that away and use it against you if they have to. Or God forbid, half the police station thinks you did it and they get rid of the other half and then you're there. Now, I don't necessarily know that's his position, but it could be. Absolutely could be.
you were not aware that she had taken February 24th off until just the day before, right?
That is correct.
Okay, but that's not accurate because her parents were scheduled to come while you were going to be out of town the night of the 24th. Isn't that correct?
I believe they were coming in the evening and then she would already be back from work.
I see. So your expectation was that she was working that day, but their expectation and everyone else's expectation is that she would be home.
I don't believe it was ever stated that she was going to be home, that they were aware that she was going to be home. My experience was that she was scheduled to work until that day.
But her parents were coming for dinner.
I don't know if they were coming for dinner. I think they were traveling through. I don't know why they were coming exactly,
Okay,
because I think they were going to Florida or continuing on.
okay. And it would be your contention that on the morning of this planned tryst, she took her phone and turned it off herself and put it in the kitchen drawer?
I don't know. I did not see her turn off the phone.
Okay, you didn't see her with her phone at all. Did
I
you?
saw her with her phone in the morning when I was getting ready.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, and she was on her phone in the morning when you were getting ready?
Yes, she had her phone in the morning,
And you said that was 6:30.
roughly. I mean,
Okay.
I was.
He said she had her phone. The prosecutor is going to act like she got him in an aha because Christine didn't actually use the phone, but I don't think that's what he actually said. But whatever, nitpicking at this point.
I was in and out getting ready in that morning, so it's hard to say an exact time.
So then would it surprise you if the digital forensics, Mr. Litsky's work would show that she was not on her phone at 6:30 or really any time before or after that with any?
I saw her with her phone. It was on the bed. She had the laptop also on the bed.
Got it. Okay. So she was just with the phone, not using the phone.
Yes.
I see. Let's talk about what happened in the room that morning. You leave the house, you go to McDonald's, and you're in the bathroom there for 7 minutes. Is that correct?
I believe that's what the time showed.
Okay. And you don't leave the bathroom until Juliana calls you at 7:37. Is that correct?
I believe that's the time. I don't have the time in front of me.
Okay. But as you're leaving the bathroom, you don't call 911.
I did not.
Okay. And you don't tell Juliana to call 911.
No, I did not.
You don't run out of McDonald's. We've seen you on the video. You walk to your car.
Remember, talked about this yesterday. He said he hurried. I was like, that does not look like a man hurrying. And she brings that up because when you have objective evidence, which is the video that he disagrees with, I would have sat on that McDonald's forever. Like, dude, look, let's watch the video again together. I would have made it brutal for him, excruciating for him. This was one where I thought she let him off too easily too.
I thought it looked like I was walking faster than normal.
Okay, but you're not concerned. You said at this point in time, you didn't have any reason to worry. You thought maybe she was just having an affair, another one, correct?
That was my original thought.
Okay.
But see, she saved him. She did the opposite. She's like, well, yeah, you didn't run out because you weren't worried. But he said he hurried out because he was worried. The phone call made him worried from Juliana. I would have done so much more with that because he can't argue with that McDonald's video. He can argue about a lot of other things.
So out of curiosity, if she's having another affair, why are you going back to the house at all? Why didn't you tell Juliana just to go to the zoo with Valerie? Don't worry about it. It's just another affair.
Well, I'm not going to be telling Juliana about Christine's affairs. That's not something I would discuss with her.
Why not? You're having an affair with Juliana.
We discussed basically nothing about Christine together. She didn't want to know anything about Christine.
Okay. So you're leaving the McDonald's. You're heading back home to catch your wife in the affair then?
I was very unsure of what was going on at that point.
Is that weird? Like, I don't know. I don't have experience in that. Like, is that weird to go back and catch your wife in the affair? That doesn't feel weird to me.
It went through my mind that it was possibly going to be an affair, but I did not know what it was.
Okay. So when you arrive at the house, you're saying that Juliana brings Valerie in after you to the basement. Is that correct?
Yes, and she also said that she followed me later. She didn't say that I told her.
Okay. And at that point in time, again, you're still thinking you're just busting your wife having sex with some guy.
I did not know, once again, exactly what was going on. That was a consideration that it was possible that she was having an affair, but I did not know what was happening at that time.
Okay. But be it catching her in an affair or this question mark something else that you haven't defined, why wouldn't you tell the babysitter to take your daughter back outside?
I believe that she was safe in the basement. I thought they were okay there. I did not perceive that they were in danger at that time. I told them to stay at the car. I don't know why she chose to come to the house.
Okay, but you're law enforcement and this is your house. You're not going to tell them what to do to ensure that they are safe when you have this doubt about what's going on?
I understand that. And
Music to my soul, I just noticed I had an issue where I don't know what's going on, but like it wouldn't let me maximize it anymore. I'm having issues. I can make my box smaller if you guys would rather see the captions. There you go. Now you can see the captions.
it may have been a mistake that I didn't send them back, out, and it's something that I've thought about many times.
Okay. You indicated that you haven't drawn your gun until you're on the stairs up to the bedroom and can hear what you think are sex noises coming from the bedroom. Is that correct?
No, I stated that when I was on the main floor, I believed that the noises were sex, moaning, things like that. But later on, when I was climbing the stairs, I had already changed my thought, and I thought that what I believe are strikes sounded too sharp, too.
Right.
Strikes sounded sharp, almost as if you knew there was going to be a knife. Marco said he cried when writing jail letters to Juliana, but not when speaking on Red Rum of his wife, 19 years. Could attention to this be brought up in closing? Sure, she could say it just like that. He was more sad when Juliana was breaking up with him than his wife was getting killed supposedly in front of his eyes. This prosecutor, this is Britt saying, this prosecutor has been annoying in my opinion, and the forensic data and au pair testimony is sus. But Brendan gives herd vibes on the exact same witness stand. Unbelievable. Sounds like you're torn. It almost sounds like you'd be a not guilty vote because there's some reasonable doubt there. But tell me what you think. John, why don't you go ahead now, since we're getting into cross and almost to the end of cross. throw up the poll. If you had to vote right now and you were on the jury, guilty, not guilty, or do you think it's going to be a hung jury? Do you think the defense or the defendant actually believe that this is going well? My guess is the defendant does. I think the defendant thinks it's going well.
Changed. It
Yes.
wasn't sex anymore. Now it sounded bad.
Yes.
Okay. At that point in time, there's a lock on the outside of your basement door, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't lock the basement door, did you?
I'm not sure I've ever locked that.
Well, the lock is there, isn't it?
It was there when it came to the house. I don't believe I've ever used that lock at any point.
Okay, but it would have presumably kept your babysitter and your child from leaving the basement and following you, as we know Juliana did, up to the room where bad things were now happening, right?
I guess that's possible, but I never thought of that lock. It's not something that's in my general thought pattern, as it's not something we ever use.
Okay. So you followed your training and pulled your weapon and walked up the stairs with the gun out. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And when you turned and saw Juliana had followed you, at that point in time, you're worried that bad things are happening, correct?
Yes, I am.
Did you tell her to call 911 at that point?
No, I was moving quickly towards the door.
Did you tell her to go back downstairs and get your daughter out of the house at that point?
I wasn't worried about Juliana at that point. I was worried about Christine.
Okay, you weren't worried about your daughter at that point either then, right?
I don't think Valerie was on the top of my mind when I believed that Christine is being injured, and that was at the forefront of my mind.
Listen, love my wife more than anything. I'd still be thinking about my 4-year-old. It would be a combo. You can think about more people than one, especially when there's 2 adults in the room that can help.
So you get up to the room with your gun drawn and you see what's happening. You see Joe Ryan behind your naked wife with something metal in his hand. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, you yelled police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't shoot.
No.
You did not yell for Juliana, who's behind you, to call 911.
I didn't know that Juliana was behind me or had climbed the stairs at that point. I had only seen her on the main floor leave at the door. I did not see her climb the stairs at that point.
Okay, but you told us that the foyer is this big echoey chamber that you can hear from anywhere in the house. If she's in the foyer and you're standing at the door, whether or not she's immediately behind you, if you yelled, call 911, she would hear you, wouldn't she, in this echoey foyer?
Yes, she would hear that.
Okay, but you didn't do that, did you?
I was focused on the tense situation that was in front of me.
Okay.
Which I think is like a semi-fair point. But Azam said, hey, Laura, fam, my school sports event just ended and you guys are still here. First long overtime in 2026. I'll join the rewatch crew later. Yes, this is our first long one. Also, I'm having some glitchiness here with some of the super chats. ABC's docket. Thank you for the super chat for caffeine tomorrow. I'm going to need it. I'm definitely usually in bed by now. Maybe still watching a show with my wife, but I'm in bed, nice and cozy because it's cold here in Florida. And Azam, thank you for gifting 10 Lawyer memberships.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask, just a moment while I log back in. Judge, if I can have the person that you saw when you entered the bedroom, Judge
Yes.
Ryan? Yes?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I'd offer Commonwealth's 251 into evidence.
Any objection?
Your Honor, object to relevance.
Overruled 251 evidence.
So this man, Joseph Ryan, planned to kill your wife, having left this completely discoverable trail on the internet. Is that correct?
I have no idea what his plans were.
Okay. So you think maybe he came for another reason and then at some point his mind changed?
I don't know.
Okay. Did he?
Yeah, see, and this is good to bring up this theory because it doesn't make sense. It feels like one or the other. Either this was a set-up sexcapade or Joe Ryan just decided to make this the time he's going to become a killer. And I'm glad she brought it up. Again, I feel like she touched on a lot of really good points, but she did not hammer him. She did not nail him to the wall like I feel like I wanted to see. Because I thought there was an opportunity here. And I thought, for some jurors that do hate him, I think she did enough to plant the seeds in their head of like, this guy's just lying. He's obviously guilty. But I think she could have convinced other jurors as well. Peter, do you think this is going to come down to a legit he said, she said? More than most criminal cases, yes. I think that's what I feel like it is. Who do I believe, Juliana or Brendan? Of course, with the other evidence corroborating. And then if I believe Juliana, do I believe her enough to convict him as guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? That's the question. Sandy, there is not a law enforcement officer that I know that would allow their family into an unsecure house, period. Yeah, she does mock him in the cross, and I know a lot of you guys did too, about, your combo to your safe is the same one to your door, and everybody knows the combo to your gun safe in your house. But I'll tell you, as crazy as that may sound, cops do dumb stuff all the time. I got a lot of cop friends, firefighter friends, who I'm like, you're the one I'm going to call to come save me. And I would call these guys to come and save me if I needed them to. But then some of the stuff they do, I'm like, you a moron or what? Like sometimes they do dumb stuff. Chrissy, if Christine didn't set this up with Joe, wouldn't her freaked out reaction and seeing him in the bedroom make him get the heck out of the house? Why would he stay to kill her? Because he showed up to kill her. That's Brendan's story, right? He didn't run when she freaked out. Well, also, I think there were messages like, if I scream like I'm afraid, just ignore it and keep coming. That's part of my fantasy. I think there were some messages like that. Lisa, bless your heart. Thanks for the 5 Lawyer You Know memberships. Hopefully you guys enjoy them that get them. YouTube randomly assigns them.
Say anything to you that would lead you to believe that he stabbed your wife on the spur of the moment?
I mean, it appeared to be somewhat related to me telling him that I was going to arrest him. But besides that,
Like, so that's what turned it for him? Like, he was going to show up to do some kinky stuff with your wife, but then when you said you're under arrest, that's when he started deciding to end her life and was able to stab her 7 times before you got a shot off? Makes no sense. I would break that down with him. I'd be like, okay, let's back up. Break this down with me. Based on his actions, what's happening in that room? That makes no sense to me.
I'm unsure.
Okay, well then let's nail this down. I thought you had said that when you entered the room, the knife is in his hand, the other hand's maybe on her neck, somewhere in her hair, and she's already bleeding, correct?
I believe that there was already blood in her hair.
Okay, so in your version of this, he had already stabbed her when you walked in the room.
I believe so.
Okay, and you then saw him stab her.
I guess I'm not sure. It could have been at that same. It could have been at that same time that he already has the knife to her neck. So I don't know if that he stabbed her before or that it was at that point that the knife is already to her neck that the blood goes to her hair.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Let's go back then and talk about your testimony. You described that when you came in, Christine was moaning/yelled. You thought she was being stabbed. She went to her left, and it seemed he, Joseph Ryan, was putting forward movement. That's what you testified to, right? So that would be the first stab that you saw.
The knife is inside of her hair, which would be at the location of her neck. I can't tell.
Inside of her hair. Like the fact that you know that detail is weird with how you're answering the rest of the question. The poll results 90% guilty. The chat has never been wrong when the percentages are that high. 8% hung jury, 3% not guilty. So there's more than one person voting not guilty because there's like 1,500 votes. So I don't know how that math works, but 35, 40 people think not guilty. And then a higher percentage, almost 100 people probably think hung jury. So there's still people out there.
Christine was yelling and obviously in pain. So I might think that she was already had the knife pressed to her at that point.
So we know from the medical examiner, and because you got to hear it, that she was stabbed 7 times and then had an 8th cutting wound, correct?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but yes, that sounds familiar.
Okay, and
Again, he seems like he's doing a math problem in his head, not talking about the injuries that took his wife's life.
you've described for us that she's already bleeding and that you see a forward movement, but you can't really tell what happened, right? And then you told us a bit ago that there's an exchange between you and Joe Ryan. You tell him to let her go at least one more time after this exchange. And it appears that he forcefully stabs Christine. She spins away toward you and lands on her stomach on the ground. So there's one clear stab.
It's not towards me, it's away from me.
Okay. But that is one moment when you see Joe Ryan stab Christine, correct?
Yes, and then downward after she went to the floor. So
Okay, so you believe that's another stab?
I'm only positive of the 2.
Okay, so you've got 2. So there's 5 more. When did he stab her those other 5 times?
The knife is
Stay on this. Stay on this and break it down. Because you walked in, he hadn't stabbed her yet, right? Because if he had stabbed her in the neck, she is not laying there letting you guys have a conversation. She is screaming at the top of her lungs. You're not like sitting there like, hey, bro, leave. He's like, well, you leave. Can I leave? You're under arrest. Put the gun down. Put the knife. Like all that's not happening if she has been stabbed in the neck with that knife that we saw. Right? Come on.
inside of her hair. I can't tell the movement. I can't tell how that is looking at that time. And I don't know exactly what happened before I arrived either.
Okay, well, she had to get 5 more wounds at some point. And you're telling us that when you get into the room, she's capable of speech, correct?
Yes.
Okay, she says a lot of stuff. She says that he's got a knife, right? Brendan, he's got a knife.
Yes.
She says that. And she says at one point that she wants you to put more pressure on her neck, correct?
Yeah, she told me to put my hand there, and then she put more pressure on my hand.
That's way later. Yeah, that makes no sense either. Somebody with a medical background explained that to us earlier.
And then at one point, she tells you she can't see, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And all of this talking is happening with what at that point in time has to be all 7 of the wounds in her neck, correct?
Yes.
Because you didn't put any wounds in her neck. I liked the way I liked the vibe of this prosecutor on the cross. I would have liked to see more of it personally.
Judge, if I can take a look, I apologize. And the jury take a look in her neck, correct? Or that may have just been something that happened while he was there, correct?
I know nothing about Joe Ryan prior to these interactions in the bedroom.
Okay. But you know from having sat through this trial what the Commonwealth's evidence is, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that he texted with someone on Christine's laptop that whole morning, correct?
Yes.
And you know that he laid out his expected arrival time, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you catch that he stopped at Walmart on his way to your house and bought personal lubricants because your
Your Honor,
wife?
object, she's
What's your legal objection?
talking about the case and she's having him corroborate what their case is.
I don't know what that legal objection is. What's the legal-
She's talking about the case. It's facts, not in evidence, I guess, if that's not in evidence. But if he did stop and get lubricant, why would you do that if you were just showing up to kill somebody? While this cross, I think, could have been more, this nuked a lot of what he said. Like, he ain't proven his case beyond a reasonable doubt, I'll tell you that much.
It's not relevant.
Overruled.
I'm aware he went to Walmart.
I'm sorry, you're aware he went to Walmart, right?
Yes.
And then he bought personal lubricants for your wife, correct?
I guess.
Who
I don't
may
know.
or may not have been intending to murder, correct?
I don't know why he brought personal lubricant.
Okay. He left his car parked in your driveway in broad daylight, which you saw, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And he left his 2 cell phones in his car per the instructions that your wife gave him on Telegram, correct?
I guess I saw the pictures on the floor. I didn't know where they were.
Okay. You said that you heard what you thought initially were sex noises, right?
Yes.
Okay, but we know from the physical evidence recovery kits that were taken from both Mr. Ryan and your wife that there was no semen, no DNA from Mr. Ryan found in or around your wife's genitalia, correct?
That's my understanding.
So how long do you think passed between your instructions to Joe Ryan to put down the knife, let her go, let her go, let her go, and your wife is bleeding before you shot him?
Not that long, under a minute.
Under a minute. Okay, so if we were to count out 60 seconds, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, that would be a minute. And in that time, you did not shoot him.
I did not shoot him, and I did not shoot him prior to Christine going to the floor.
Okay, and at that point in time that she's going to the floor, were at least 6 stab wounds in, right?
To the best of my knowledge, it's hard to see. Also, I'm aiming down my sight at Joe, and so I'm not focused exactly on Christine. You have a narrowed view when you're aiming down a firearm.
And you just couldn't pull the trigger, could you?
I was afraid.
Okay, and you are a trained law enforcement officer, correct?
I am, but I have my shooting record is on the lower end for the qualifications, and there's not a lot. There's very little space there, and I was afraid of hitting her.
Okay, Mr. Ryan did not have a gun, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
You also had handcuffs, correct?
Yes.
You didn't use those to apprehend Mr. Ryan, correct?
Looking back on it,
Not the best line of questioning to me. Like, if he's stabbing your wife, like, you're going to go put handcuffs on him. I understand shooting.
should have handcuffed him after my shot. Would be.
That's like what he says he wishes he would have done. And then again, I said she kind of mocked him about the code. Asked where the towel was, like, why'd you move the towel? On redirect, we talked about the fetish stuff, the BDSM relationship. Why did you shoot Joe? He was an imminent threat to Christine. I've heard they're going to have a self-defense instruction. That makes sense. Then we heard the audiovisual experts. And then we heard from this guy, who we're not going to listen to his entire testimony. This was rebuttal evidence, okay? After the experts, battle of the audio experts, this guy comes and testifies and says that he is Brendan Banfield's boss, and he was out of town the day all this happened when Brendan Banfield said that he had a very important meeting, and anybody else that could be Brendan Banfield's manager was also not there. So he nukes himself, Brendan Banfield's entire alibi as to why he left the house early, why he went to get lunch, why he was focused on work. It was such a big day, such an important day, all nuked if you believe this guy's testimony. Now, what I didn't like is this how you would dress if you were going to go get a promotion? And he says, no, objection. The judge overruled it. Why is it relevant how this guy would dress when he goes to an interview? And I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, I agreed with this guy. I wouldn't dress like that either. Fine, neither would I, but not relevant. He should not be able to testify to that. I don't think it's going to be like a big deal or like the case is going to get overturned for it, but he should not have been able to testify to like what he would do, because later another objection was levied when he said, what was it? Would you share the gun safe code? Objection, relevant. That was sustained. It's the same objection. What this guy would do, we don't care about. Because Brendan can do something different than this guy, just like you can or just like I can. From my perspective, this guy was a great witness for the Commonwealth, though. He didn't seem like he wanted to stretch or do anything extra. Why didn't Christine see the messages on her computer to Joe? The Commonwealth's theory is, the defense's theory, the Commonwealth's theory is that they created a separate email and the FetLife account that she never used, so she would have never seen the messages. I believe him when he said he wasn't concerned about his daughter when he thought his wife was being killed. He had no reason to be concerned. It was all going according to plan. Okay, I thought you were going to say, I get it. Like, you're focused on your wife, but then zing, you brought that in at the end. Okay, as quickly as I can, because I'm done. I'm shot. My voice is done. Been a couple hours on here. The end of the day, the state is trying to dismiss some charges. They're trying to clean this up. They have multiple counts of aggravated M and first degree M. It's all premeditated. They're trying, in my opinion, to separate where if the jury just thinks he killed Christine or he just killed Joe and not both, that they could still convict him. And some of the aggravating factors are that you killed two people in the same act or within 3 years as the aggravating factor. And I think they want to make sure that the jury doesn't hang or not find a way to convict if they think, well, actually Juliana killed Joe or Joe killed Christine, whatever it may be. They don't want one of those to come in the way of convicting him. So they're going to try to work on the charges. They ended up saying, Judge, let's chill for a second. We'll come back tomorrow and figure these out. Jen, thank you so much for gifting another 5 memberships on the way out. Hit that like button, folks. Everybody hit the like button. Let's get this one to 10,000 likes too. You guys are the best. I appreciate it so much. You guys coming here and spending 2 hours with me. It's so long. But you guys, it flew by to me. It flew by. I am a little bit tired now, and I got a full day tomorrow. But I love hanging out with you guys. I love talking about these cases with you guys, especially moments like this when defendants take the stand. It's such a big deal. It doesn't happen often. So I'm glad we were able to talk about it tonight. This was a wild one. I think I know what's going to happen, but let's wait. We'll watch closing arguments tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to go live if the verdict is tomorrow night. Flag football with my kids tomorrow, so not going to happen Friday night. If it happens during the day in a quick verdict, maybe. If it happens tomorrow night, maybe we'll do something Saturday, but we'll figure it out. We'll play it by ear, and we'll definitely be talking about this. I appreciate you guys so much, but I got to go. So until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe.
You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com.
And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.